Hi, everybody. Welcome. Hello, Norma. Hello, Angie. Hello, Greg. Hi, Kevin. Lacey B33. Hello, I made it to a live. Welcome. Hi, Cedric. It's so great to see you guys. Welcome. And we are on day 29. Can you believe that? I know this challenge has gone way longer than we expected, but I'm very glad because we got to have a lot of great conversations. I think otherwise we wouldn't have. And we also got a lot of people checking out some of the older videos, and some people are still just catching up. So obviously these challenges are available for free on the channel that you guys can access at any time. And all of the resources that are available through these videos are really available and accessible, and not just accessible, but they can be used at any time because these are topics that we always come into, especially if you are doing inner work, on a daily basis. These are things that definitely come up. And the idea is that we begin to work with those, finding the root and excavating and beginning to become aware of ourselves, expanding as this organism, a multidimensional organism. And it's a really powerful way to begin to shift and change the world that we're experiencing today, our everyday experiences with people that we love and live and share life with, as well as our past and our potential future as a collective human race. And that's really the most important reason why we want to be doing this kind of deprogramming work at this time, is to begin to shift things for the future. I'm going to be creating a couple different series after this. The next series is going to be about interdimensional contact. It's going to be focused on the hybridization program and the mechanics of the human soul. And I think that it's an incredibly essential topic because there is a link between our ascension and parasitic interdimensional contact, as well as expansive interdimensional contact. Interdimensional contact in its totality is really the next step for humanity. And what we really want to understand is that we need to have the conversations about interdimensionality because we are designed, and the majority of our experiences that affect our reality collectively and individually are due to all of the things that we're experiencing in the in-between realms, in higher dimensional planes. Usually when we sleep, when we leave the body, when we detach from the body, this is where we begin to navigate actually another level of life, maybe even realer than this life. At least in levels of our subconscious mind that are affecting more than just our individual everyday experience. And that's really important to understand. In fact, we are so deeply interconnected on this human race that everything that we experience, everything that we feel is affecting the vibrational frequency, the resonance of the entire planet, of the entire human race. And that resonance that we create as a human race is defining how we are moving interdimensionally through this multiverse. It defines the level of ascensions, the strands of DNA, which we can activate and access, which also relates to the kind of technology that we're accessing, the amount of suffering that we're experiencing collectively on Earth, and the amount of joy and love that we're capable of feeling on Earth as well. Because we are opening and closing through ourselves portals and accessing gateways of data that allow the human body to integrate and move as it evolves. And that evolution is very much a collective thing as much as it is individual. What we do internally is directly reflected in our external environment. And that connection between what we are and what we're doing in the collective is important because it allows us to take accountability for where we're at spiritually. What you're doing and what you're not doing is what you're seeing in the world outside of you. If you see a lot of suffering, chaos, wars, those are the reflections of our own shadows that we haven't even met yet, because we contribute to those things, and we do so by supporting systems of this shadow government, this one world government, which defines and creates this holographic matrix from which we participate in. And every single aspect of your life, from the things that you consume, to the things you eat, to the things you read, to the things you watch, to the things you think about, are all plugged into this system that utilize your unconsciousness in order to move things in certain directions. So while we are still unconsciously connected to this system, we are not able to choose, and free will doesn't even exist at that point, because you are nothing more than a product of your environment. And we talked about this in our talk about how DNA is affected by emotions, because if your environment is stressing and you become stressed as a result of a stressing environment, what gets affected is your physical body. So again, you are a product of your environment. The idea is to create an environment. This is what you're here to do. You are creators. You are designed to create. The whole divine aspect of the internal marriage, the alchemical marriage within, is the union between the feminine and the masculine aspect of ourselves. When those unite, they can create a child. And the child is that awareness. It is the consciousness that comes to life that begins to embody free will. Now, free will is a topic that has to be talked about separately, because the concept of free will is really a very deep one. We have free will up until we are aware that we have free will. And we only have free will when we're aware of it. And on the bigger picture, we're a little organism within a gigantic multiverse that plays a role. And that role is defined very specifically by where we're at in our awareness, in our level of ascension, in our accountability as an organism, and in the level of dimensional levels that we're able to wake consciousness up in. And waking up consciousness in all these dimensional levels is a result of the activation of your DNA. It's the activation of your awareness in how you are navigating this physical experience as you are either plugged into a system or disconnected from that system, which is quite parasitic and quite manipulative, because it feeds off the unconsciousness of each and every one of us. So our ability to begin to become and even apply free will from the beginning is something that we often take a long time in our life to even realize, that we are mostly not only we are slaves of this system because we're unconscious, but we are slaves of our own shadows. Essentially, that's what it comes down to. You become slaves of the things that you fear, because they are so powerfully ingrained in you in order to not experience or to avoid that suffering, that we create entire personalities. We create entire lives. We can create entire relationships. We create entire stories of our lives in order to make sure that we avoid feeling that suffering. And that is our greatest dark spot. That's our greatest downfall. Because while we continue to have that shadow and that fear of that part of us, that will decide all the subconscious belief systems that we're running in the back end. So this is why deprogramming is so important. Deprogramming is at the crux of being able to become even sovereign, even the minimalist sovereign amount of sovereignty in your body to be able to govern what you're doing requires a very strong amount of awareness. And that awareness is something that is cultivated. We have to practice that every moment of our day. We have to remember that we are here in this body, and that this vessel is a fractal of infinite consciousness, and that when we embody bliss is when we can actually access the higher activities of this body, that we can actually navigate this physical experience from a higher reality. And that higher reality is interdimensionality. We have our interdimensional connection. If we are blinded from our interdimensionality, we don't have the ability to navigate the full picture of what we're encompassing. And that's a problem, because the majority of the things that occur are happening in this frequency range subliminal messages, interactions, cords and attachments to entities, aspects of ourselves that we're unaware of. All of these things that sustain us, lock us in to the shadow parts of us that we haven't met. So this work is incredibly important, and more so as you become more aware of yourself and as you begin to find a balance in the work, in what you are, you'll realize actually that even though this sounds like it might be daunting, the moment that you sit in meditation and you begin to observe, you'll notice that it's nothing more than just repetitive patterns. These repetitive patterns are the things that are keeping you trapped. And it comes down to two things, two simple things. You are constantly making two choices all your life. You are choosing, well, it's one choice, but you have two options. One choice, that's it, one choice. You're choosing between love and fear. That is all you're doing. That's all it comes down to. So the question is, are you choosing love or are you choosing fear? Okay, and if you can begin to kind of look at your life in this way, it will be easier. It'll be easier. But you need to know what love is and you need to know what fear is. And how we recognize that is by going in and looking at ourselves in these different scenarios and by observing ourselves and how we carry fear or love in the body or don't carry love in the body, we begin to understand what our needs are. And our ability to trust ourselves is the ability to know that you are source, that you are the source of your meeting your needs, that you are the source of creation, that you are the source of manifestation, you are the source of the experiences that you have in your life, relationships that you attract. You are the source of every single thing that you're experiencing your entire life, even the parents that you choose, the families, the marriages, the careers that you choose. All of that is a part and a result of these unconscious aspects of ourselves. And until you wake up, you might not understand why you ended up where you're at. Now, the next step of this is understanding what to do when you wake up and you find yourself in the middle of a big hot mess that you have created yourself in. And so many of us find ourselves in that mess, and it takes time to untangle all of the things that we have created for ourselves. But that time is not time that you have to get permission from someone else to embody. This is you having a very profound connection with your authentic self. And the authentic self for many people can be very scary because it is the most vulnerable part of us. The authentic self is pure, raw existence of yourself. Everything that you are, the shadowest, the darkest parts of you, your deepest desires, your deepest fears, the things that that feel shameful and guilt about yourself, the things that you don't forgive yourself for, things that you feel that you've done that are wrong, all of that is the part of you that you will have to look at, that you must look at. It's not even a question. If you can't look at that, if you want to avoid that, if you want to just put happiness on top of that, you're living in denial and you're never going to know yourself. But the matrix knows you. The matrix knows you so profoundly and so deeply that this is how it manipulates you. And it manipulates before you even understand that you're being manipulated. You think that you are on this track just because you are feeling love or joy, but unless you handle those shadow parts of you, you're just adding layers on top of wounds that have never healed. So we're again, like we are managed and we become slaves to those wounds. So those wounds have to be looked at. They have to be felt. You have to acknowledge them. You have to feel them. And you have to know them. You have to know them. You have to know them inside out. And the knowing of them, all you're doing is you're learning about how to come back from fear to love. That's all you're doing. So all of these things here within the guilt, shame, hate, self-hate, judgment part of you, all you're doing is teaching yourself the opposite. You're not replacing, you're teaching yourself the opposite. You're learning how to be a human, because we don't learn that. When we grow up, when we're in the womb and we're gestating, we immediately take on programs and belief systems that don't even belong to us. However, by resonance, we come into this family because this is a lesson that we've been trying to overcome for a very long time. And your opportunity in every cycle of reincarnation is the opportunity to break cyclical patterns. The soul exists simultaneously on all dimensional planes. The more fragments we create within a dimensional plane, the more we become entangled in that dimension, the more time we will need to spend until we learn to wake up all of our fragments that have been created. Every lifetime, we create hundreds of fragmentations of ourselves. Reintegration is the ability to wake up all of those unconscious fragments of yourself in the shadow of your own existence and bring to light. When we bring to light these fragmentations of ourselves, this is how we expand. It's like your light is this tiny little vessel, and as it wakes up all of these fragments of ourselves, its light body begins to become bigger because you are awakening on other dimensions. So you come online on all those dimensional levels. You exist in all of them. There is not a single dimension from which you don't exist, including the deepest, darkest dimensions of this multiverse. All of us encoded within this organism in itself has draconian, reptilian bloodlines. We have these bloodlines. And if you incarnated in the 3D, three-dimensional plane, it's in order for you to learn how to navigate all of these potential bloodlines, just like we have high angelical bloodlines or high light bodies that we have access to. But the human that is in hypnosis, the human that is sleeping, won't be able to even access that information until it wakes up and even recognizes itself as a sovereign human being. And becoming sovereign is the process of reintegration of your fragments, of learning how to bring fear to love. You are learning the entire spectrum of emotions. And this evolution, most of the trauma that is occurring, it's activating different strands of DNA throughout your life and also deactivating others. So as you begin to activate more strands of your DNA, you are activating more parts of you that has lots of information. Every single fragment that's created has a certain vibrational frequency. This frequency has a resonance. You've created similar fragments in other past lives. These are simultaneous lives. So our entanglement also has a vibrational frequency. And that vibrational frequency makes up your frequency and your resonance. And this level of resonance is choosing the lives that you're going to incarnate in, the lives that you're going to become conscious in. Nothing is moving. It's just a little light turning on in different points around a whole multiverse, multidimensional multiverse of experiences. Okay. So this work, the reason why I want to take you from this higher aspect into the physical is because I want you to understand how interconnected things are. I want you to understand that waking up and having a good day every day, it's not just that. And people, and I know you guys are there already, you already have interdimensional contact. You already have intuitive abilities. You have communication with the non-physical realm already. Why? You need to know why. You have communication with the interdimensional realm because you exist in more than one dimension. And in your day, you are moving in and out of those dimensions constantly. Some of you are mediums, some of you are psychic. So you're in the 9th to 10th dimension. Some of you are, interacting and channeling information from beings, physical manifestations, light beings, light bodies. So all of those dimensions that you're interacting with, you're activating DNA and you are moving from one dimension to another. When you communicate with that dimension, you're not just in this dimension. You literally have opened a vortex through your chakra system, through your holographic DNA into that dimensional plane because it's braided into your genetic code. So you access that through your genetic data. Your genetic data is like a vortex. It's like a portal that allows you to access information from the strands that are awakened. And we activate strands within our body in order for us to receive just the right amount of information that you need to access in order to overcome the things that you're trying to learn in this lifetime. The opportunities that you have. Life is opportunities. Opportunities for what? For integration, for expansion, and for learning. These are the opportunities that we all have. It's not about a defined purpose. It's not about being of service to another even. That's not really what it's about. It's about you coming into your highest expression. Because what happens is that the being of service to others is actually way bigger. It's a way bigger concept than any of us really understand. It's not just about, let's say, holding space for a friend. Okay, because sometimes in that work, it's actually the ego that's mostly operating behind that end. When you really go deep into these topics, you begin to understand that even sometimes talking about these things, and this is something that I myself had to really question. Should I even talk about these things? Because when you talk about these things, you begin to activate within people. But people have to be ready for this. And there's work that has to be in combination to that. Most of the people don't want to do that work. They just want the excitement and the entertainment of this potential truth, or even just non-truth. Maybe they don't even believe it, but it's fun to hear it. Some people come to my sessions and they want to have some kind of psychic reading and they want to be entertained, right? They want to know what kind of aliens they are or what star planet they come from or, what gifts they have. But before you get to any of that fun stuff, first of all, it's not for me to say, it's for you to discover. There's no such thing as someone telling you what you are. You have to discover what you are through your work. You have to connect with yourself because it's not just a little imprint of a story. It's neural pathways that are being created. It's DNA that becomes activated in order for you to know what's true within you, in order to experience that connection with your Arcturian self or your Pleiadian self. Yes, I can see all that, but it's not going to serve you for me to be like you're Pleiadian, you're Arcturian. It doesn't serve you unless you understand how to access that information. There's a responsibility to knowledge. And it becomes wisdom when we apply the knowledge, but you can't access that information if you're still coming from the ego of the service to self. It's just fun for you to hear. It's just entertaining, but you don't want to do the work. You cannot access this information unless you do the work. And so this is why we really need to focus on training ourselves to do the shadow work. That is why my focus is that, and why, I don't usually talk about too much the ET topic, because in a way, ET topics in our current world have turned into a distraction. Because we talk about the lights in the sky, because we talk about the cool technologies, the cool UFOs, we talk about the abductions and the traumas and the hybridization program, but we can't even begin to understand what that is because we have no knowledge of our own self. We don't know what the soul is. In order to know what the soul is to connect with the self. How do you know yourself? You need to watch yourself. You need to be your best friend. You need to be your mother, your father, and your best friend. You need to observe yourself. If we can't learn to be observers, neutral observers, we are not ready for anything else that's coming on. because it's the neutral foundation that allows you to stay out of parasitic entanglements, deviations, distractions, and parasitic drainage of your life force. What's really real is that we are existing in a parasitic environment. Okay, because we're here to experience duality, we are dealing with contrast, high energy contrast, high energy exchange. This realm, the third dimensional realm, is about exchange and creation. Okay, so it's like you've entered the super highway, the high-speed highway of experiences. So you need to catch up quickly to understand you're a manifester and you're a creator. That's what you are inherently. So that means that there are some side effects to that, and that we manifest and we create on more than one dimensional plane. Our ability to learn this organism and how it functions will allow you to navigate either through the eyes of suffering and helplessness and hopelessness and overwhelm, or through the eyes of harmony, bliss, co-creation. We need to choose very wisely, even when you listen to this information, that you begin to understand that the emotions that you feel in the body create. They create your perceptions, they create what you're experiencing outside of you. And it's not just in this waking state, it's in all dimensional planes that you're currently even slightly aware of. And as we move in evolution, we're going to get more access to these dimensional planes. We're getting ready to get more technologies, which is so silly that our technology is so ridiculously antiquated and archaic, and all of that is suppressed because they're controlling the evolutionary move of this human race. But we can't wait for the permission of the outer matrix, the parasitic matrix, which has no interest in empowering the huge collection of consciousness that is here on the planet. Because when you empower the huge collection of consciousness on the planet, you can't control anymore, right? So the need to control, and we have to learn this about ourselves as well. We want to control. We want to control whether we feel suffering, and we want to control whether we feel joy. We are control freaks. And that control is fear. So here it is. We cannot control anything. You cannot control anything unless you understand how you function. You can't even control what you're co-creating until you understand how you're co-creating. Do you know how you're creating? Do you know that it's your subconscious mind that's actually creating your reality? It's actually projecting and creating a resonance to the experiences that you're having. Did you know that person that is giving you a hard time in your life is something that you have within you that you're mirroring? Okay, so until we understand that, we will be forever victims of an illusion which we are not victims of. Because the moment the human wakes up, opens their eye, the true eye of what they are, that's when they're going to understand, hello, I was never in suffering. I was never unconscious. I was never helpless. We were never. We are literally encoded in our DNA to be completely empowered. And so this is where we begin to really take responsibility. It's a time for responsibility. It's time to take accountability because the information is out there, you guys. And you don't even need to sit here and watch me talk about this. You know this. It's in your holographic DNA. The moment you sit down in meditation, you begin to uncover it. You begin to feel it, know it, experience it. We're just afraid. We're afraid to take that information and see it and embody it as truth because we're afraid of coming into surrender and vulnerability. We think that we're going to be vulnerable by being authentic and coming into our whole truth. We think that we need to ask for permission to exist or to be liked or to be loved or accepted by this external, but who are you asking for acceptance and permission? You're asking a parasitic consciousness. And we are all parasites until we realize that we're co-creators. We are all parasites until we take responsibility and embody and bring ourselves into a state of bliss. That's just how the mechanics of this existence function. It's not an insult, it's the reality. Because this centrifugal vortex, once it spins in the wrong direction or it becomes stagnant or stuck, we become black holes. We're not white holes. We become black holes. We're contracting instead of expanding. So, these are just the laws of physics and the laws of co-creation of this multidimensional, incredible biotechnology that we are. So it's really important that you understand that, as children, we believe that we are helpless because we are small, we are fragile, we think we are delicate, we are expecting to receive support and love from parents. But remember that we're coming into these bloodlines in order to begin to end cyclical patterns of suffering. And our parents didn't know. They didn't know. Just the way we are growing, we are maturing into the human that is consciousness. And that's a process. That's a process. And so coming into the state of observation allows you to become aware of where your patterns are. So today's class, or today's work is about permission, because I see what I get a lot in my sessions is that we don't believe that we have permission to exist. We don't have permission to be joyful. We don't have permission to be happy. We don't have permission to express ourselves. And the more and more judgments we experience from the external world outside of us, the more we see things as separation, the more separate we are from ourselves. And that's where the problem is. So in order to collect ourselves and to become one with ourselves, we have to be the source of all the permissions, all the acceptance, all the love. Everything you need is within you. You are the source of everything you need. I would just want you to really sit with that and to memorize this. We need to tattoo that on our head. We are the source of everything we need. Okay? We cannot help others until we know how to help ourselves. And that is so profoundly true that I experienced that. I experienced that. Like, I know that because I experienced it. So I want you to know that and to experience it, because what happens is that when you go through this work like deprogramming, you realize a lot of things. You broaden your perspective. You are creating neural pathways in your brain. You're changing the way your nervous system functions. You are literally healing yourself into a different kind of human. You look different. You feel different. Everything about you is different when you are doing this work. It's not like a normal human that is a complete displacement of life force. They misuse of life force, depletion of life force. You are learning to cultivate your life force, and that's a completely different existence. So this new human that is creating, which is the authentic, sovereign, conscious new human, is a human that begins to, through their awareness, can then observe. And when you observe others, you're going to see little fragments of yourself because you've done that work. You're going to recognize yourself in others. Okay, and when you begin to notice that others are playing the same patterns, you're going to understand how you connected with them. Even strangers on the street, you will notice that there is a resonance. Then, when you know how to come out from that, you'll be able to assist another. All you will say is one word, and they will be able to know what's happening. They will find themselves, because words are vibrational frequencies. They're shapes, they're geometric forms that shift the physical body. we can activate our DNA and we can heal this body because we are utilizing shapes and forms to change the shapes and forms that we currently exist in. Right now, our shapes and form, even our DNA is, has lots of blockages, traumas, doesn't have the ability to allow life force to flow. So when you begin to replace that with expansive codes, life force, intentions, words, emotions, vibrational frequency, the language of creation, you begin to completely reorganize how this body is functioning. And it's down to the cellular level of your body. So this kind of shift is something that we really need to work towards. So what I want to do today in our meditation is take a look at where we are always seeking permission to exist, permission to feel joy, permission to feel, permission to exist, all of these aspects of ourselves that we haven't felt that we were allowed, okay? And we're just going to work with those fragments. All right, so let's go really quickly in the chat. I want to say hi to everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today for this little chat. Norma, hello. So great to see you. Hello, happy to be on the live. Been following your recordings. Awesome. Change how you eat. Yes, thank you so much for joining us. Zayushko, hello. Payoroha, hello. Earth Angel, so great to see you. Lindsay McDonald, wonderful. Thank you so much. Greg Herrera, it's good to have a little time in between sessions to digest info. I agree. I really agree with that. Because sometimes after you meditate, there's things that you still realize and you're still integrating. And usually, mind you, that this kind of work, I usually advise my clients to have at least 30 days for them to process healing DNA reprogrammings, because there's so much other little rabbit holes that you can take from one session. So, think about it. We've been doing this consecutively. Some of you are doing this consecutively. So there's a lot that you're learning there. Norma says, yes, I have 16 hybrid children. Yep. And we're going to talk about that. I'm designing an entire series on that, which will be our next series. Okay. Following this challenge. I always go back to the videos that I need to do more work on myself. Thank you, Angie. Greg has a question. If you only time to do one meditation or topic is this series, which one would you recommend? I can't recommend just one, Greg, because what I want you to take away from this series is the way to do the work. Because if you learn how to do the work, you can do this in all ways, and you have to do it in all ways. You have to find all of the topics that I picked for this series are very key blockages that most people have when it comes to their emotions. And it's usually the things that cause us the biggest amount of disconnect and confusion when we're dealing and healing and reintegrating from trauma. Remember that you don't need to have a crazy experience happen in trauma. Trauma can be a mother one day that didn't look at you the right way, or a father that didn't hug you the right way. It's very subtle things. It's any time that we feel helpless. So the tools that you're learning in these sessions is what I want you to take home with you, because I want you to do what I do. I want you to activate your intuition like me. I want you to begin to see your field, read your field, and then eventually learn how to read others' fields. So I really recommend noticing the core tools that I'm providing and make that your toolkit so that you can begin to have a very proactive meditation, basically, every day, because meditation should be every day. Kang M, I finally discovered you. Thank you so much for joining me. We make ourselves victims when we don't know we have free will. That's right. Truth Seeker, so good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. I love the simplicity of that. Love or fear? I choose love. Well, most of the time. Awesome. Okay, so I'm just gonna really quickly read this the core first time. If you guys have any questions, I'm gonna answer questions at the end. So I just want to give a shout out to everyone that's here. Kevin, welcome. Brave Seal, hi, so great to see you. Norma, so good to see you. Sealban, so nice to see you. Welcome. Cedric, does it always take a trauma to wake us up and experience who we really are? Yes, it does, because we're here to experience contrast. And there isn't a single person on this earth that hasn't experienced trauma, because that's what we're here to experience. That's exactly what we're here to experience. All right, my love. So I'll come back with questions at the end. Let's get into our meditation and let's see what we can find. Okay. We're going to start by inhaling deeply. We're going to start by grounding down to the center of the earth. Okay, go ahead and tune into your energetic field. How far out does your energy extend around you? We're just going to create a sphere around the body, becoming aware of any openings, and we're going to close those openings. So now that we're grounded and protected, we're going to go work on the chakras. Let's start with the root chakra. Go ahead and visualize shrinking that chakra down to the size of a dime. Breathing deeply. Sacral chakra. Breathing deeply. Solar chakra. Solar plexus. Your heart chakra, you're going to expand. Your throat, you're going to expand. Your third eye, you're going to expand front and back. And you're going to go up to your crown. You're going to activate your crown. Go ahead and fill it in with your highest vibrational frequency. Okay. And we're going to go deeper. Let's go ahead and visualize from the center of the earth. We're going to pull up a powerful green light force up into the body, creating a vortex of energy. Go ahead and move that green light force all around your body, pulling out any debris from the 13 layers of your field. Okay. From the cosmos, we're going to bring cosmic energy in from source, and we're going to combine it with the green earth energy. Go ahead and ground it. Combine those two energies. Okay. You're going to take 10% back down. We're just going to run the energy through the body. 10% down to the center of the earth. Anchor it into the center core, anchoring cosmic energy into the earth through your body. Okay, we're going to take 80% or a larger amount of that combination up your spine from the crown of your head, coating the outside of your field. Go back to the solar plexus, take that final 10% and feed it into the body, penetrating into the pores, into the flesh, into the muscles, the bones, down to the cellular level. Breathing deeply. Okay, sending that life force to the parts of the body that require more healing, more support. Very good. Okay, so we're going to start reviewing now. As you begin to observe just over the past 24 hours, Take a look at any time that you felt that you needed approval or permission. And I want you to really observe yourself very carefully. Even the times when you're not aware of yourself throughout the day. How often are you not aware of yourself throughout the day? Number one. And then when you are aware of yourself or becoming aware of yourself, do you immediately come into a state of love or fear? And remember that those are root emotions, but from them arrive a plethora of emotions. So just noticing. The emotions that are contracting, you might define as negative emotions. The emotions that are expanding, you might define as positive emotions. But we're only talking about the side effect, the energetic impact that it has in your body. It doesn't mean that they are good or bad. That's a differentiation that people really need to understand. We are talking about the mechanical side effects of the emotional input. An emotion can be positive or negative because it creates a negative charge electrically in the body that creates chemicals that can be destructive for the body. Or it could be positive that creates a positive charge in the body that is constructive, expansive, and energizing. It doesn't mean it's good or bad. It's just an awareness of how they function, how they affect your physical vessel. So as you begin to observe, when you allow yourself to feel certain emotions throughout your day, just observe what allows you to have those choices. How do you make those choices throughout your day? Go ahead and notice that. What are the influences that help you make the choices of whether you feel positive or negative emotions? Take a look at that. Noticing how the body reacts as you review these memories. Does your body begin to tense up? Do the muscles begin to contract? Do you begin to feel tired? All of these are indicators of life force being drained through negative perspectives, judgments about things. The subconscious mind is very busy categorizing things that we're watching and observing. Okay, so the thing is that you maintain and you cultivate more life force in the body when you judge less, when you apply meaning to things. You are utilizing a lot of life force because to create separation is more work than embodying wholeness. Okay, so this really speaks to the level of vitality that you have, that you're sustaining within your body. Everybody knows martial artists that know how to cultivate their life force. They have more stamina. This is also true in sexual energy, sexual exchange, relationships exchanging. If you know how to cultivate your life force, then you have stamina. So this is really important because we truly do become victims of our own self when we don't understand how we are creating suffering for ourselves, when we're making ourselves suffer. We suffer because the body becomes strained, it becomes sick, it becomes depleted. So if we're not aware of that, think about how much suffering this physical body incurs with your unconsciousness, with your lack of awareness. So as you begin to take a look at your past week, I want you to observe over the past week, how many times are you choosing fear and love? And what are the things that influence your choices? Are we seeking approval, acceptance, permission in order to feel one or the other? And where is that permission coming from? Is it coming from ourselves or coming from something? Are we expecting it to come from outside? Breathing deeply. How sovereign are you really? Or how much of a product of your environment or the influences of your fears are you a product of? So are you a product of the influence of your fears or of others, judgments, perceptions, definitions, perhaps your own fears, right? Take a look at that. So I just want you to see that part of you that doesn't have permission, the part that doesn't have the ability to make that free choice without these counter-creative influences. And I want you to look at yourself. What do you look like? Observe yourself. Watch that part of you. The part that is always seeking approval, acceptance, permission to be, to exist, to express, to do, to love, to even feel emotions. Maybe even you're not allowed to feel hate or fear. Okay, so all of those are limitations of your expression. So take a look at the part of you that is living in that constant limitation, constriction, control. Okay. So as you observe this part of you, just notice how much suffering it's incurred throughout its life. So I want you to begin to review your life now as you quickly begin to identify fragments of yourself that have this same embodiment, that are a product of the same suffering. And take a look, how far back in your life have you embodied this? How far back in your life can you recall seeing yourself in this state of control, limitation, restriction? Take a look at all the parts of you that live in this very constricted way, in this very judged way, in this powerless way. Now, how would your life be different if you didn't exist in this way? Control, survival, fear. What happens if you weren't looking for the approval of others to be who you are, to do what you want to do, to express what you want to express? What would happen? Would we go into a wild imbalance and cause ourselves more harm? If so, why? This is where you begin to understand. A lot of us are afraid of freedom, actually. We're afraid of our authentic self because we are ashamed of our expression. We're ashamed of our most expansive self. We still have belief systems of control and limitation. And because of such prolonged restriction, when we do have that liberation, that freedom, and we give ourselves the permission Sometimes we go in the opposite direction because we don't know yet how to create a homeostasis in the body, in the nervous system, in the muscle system, in the emotions. Okay, so we need to experience all sides so we understand how to bring ourselves to the center. So take a look at yourself. What happens if you allow yourself to embody your most authentic self without any control, without needing the permission or allowance, fear? What do you look like? Some of you might stand up straighter. Some of you might accept your imperfections. Some of you might notice that you care less about the little things, little judgments. You might see yourself illuminating, expanding, because we are frequency. And as you see, the illumination is just the output of what's happening internally. Neural pathways are being created, healed, some severed. Reconnections are being made. DNA is activating. You see yourself as a whole. You're allowed to be your pure, authentic expression. And you begin to notice how perhaps silly it was to expect approval from the external, from others, and even from yourself. You begin to dissolve belief systems of shame, of good and bad, of judgment, of limitations and control. I want you to see all of your fragments of yourself, and I want you to allow them to have this healing. As you begin to liberate them from the fears of coming into their most authentic expression, whatever that is. And just observing without judgment what that looks like, what that feels like. As you do this, your body is really connecting to what you're seeing and feeling, and you're learning subliminally what it feels like to embody this different new self. So tomorrow, when you wake up and you encounter the first experience of your day, and the nervous system wants to go back into that reaction, you're going to pause because you experience something different. It even feels like the blood is flowing through your body more fluidly, more openly, more relaxed. It feels like the body is in a state of relaxation, calmness, peace, right? So when you begin to observe that part of you, it's going to embody, it's going to want to embody now what's newly familiar, because it's seeing the other side of that shadow, right? We fear the unknown. When you know what's on the other side of that shadow, you can't fear it anymore. So you become fearless with this work. So as you begin to observe yourself now, I want you to merge all of your fragments of yourself into one self in front of you. I want you to see this part of you. Okay. Just observe yourself. You're going to see a cord connecting your body to all of the people, places, things that we seek approval from, that we seek permission to exist, to be. All the ancestors down the bloodlines that were seeking approval as well, to exist, to be their most authentic self. Just observe your ancestors through the generations of your mother, father lineage, grandfather, great-grandfather, great-great-great, all the way to the origin. Take a look at the amount of suffering that so many generations, the amount of constriction, control, fear. How many of these generations came into their highest expression? How many? How many have been cycling and cycling and cycling in the same programs? When will be enough? This cyclical pattern of suffering. I want you to take a look at your life today. How are you repeating the same cycle of suffering today? How are you constricting yourself, fearing yourself, looking for permission to exist, to embody, to be joyful, to be free, to be creative, to be loved, lovable, and loving? Take a look at that. And notice that your opportunity in this lifetime, which is incredibly impactful to the collective multiverse as the health of an organism, you participate in the health and vitality of your body, and you participate in the health and vitality of the earth, in the multiverse, and in this great organism which we participate, we're a part of. So are you a cancer cell? Or are you a very healing cell in this organism? Okay, so I want you to take a look at those cords connecting to all of your ancestors, and I want you to gently inhale your life force that you are suppressed in the manifestations of our ancestors. Inhale back into your body. And I want you to release everything that you took on that you believed is true of needing to be in control, fear, separation, anger, all of those emotions, right? So go ahead and release that out. Notice how the body feels lighter. It feels more relaxed. You actually tune into real, genuine peace, which is not something that can be faked or something that you can just create. You have to build and cultivate that. So as you embody that peace in your body, that more calm feeling, I want you to reintegrate your beautiful fragment that you have healed into your body now, okay? And you're going to integrate it into the root, the sacral, solar, heart, throat, third eye. 7 bodies in, 7 bodies out, all charges, negative, infinite, coming into a state of neutrality infinitely on all dimensional layers. This is how you wake yourself up in all dimensions, not just this one. So as you see yourself here, fully integrated, I want you to open up your root chakra back into a balanced state. Breathe in that love. Love is infinite life force from source into the root chakra. Clear out all of the programs of limitation in the root that have to do with home, that have to do with feeling safe, having a home, being protected, feeling safe. We create our reality. It does not matter what is happening outside in the world. What matters is what's happening in there. What are you running? What are you creating? Go up to the sacral. You're going to open up the sacral, spin it as fast as possible, clearing out. Okay? Going up to the solar, opening up, clearing out. Anger. Lots of us feel so much anger. We're angry at change. We're angry at non-change. We're angry at everything, right? So now we're in a time of change, and we're going to become friends with change because that's what we are, change. You are here to change. You are here with an opportunity to end cyclical patterns of suffering. So go up to your heart. You're going to expand that heart chakra. You're going to maintain that expansion because we want to speak in the language of frequency from the higher dimensional planes with our intuition. We're not stuck and sleeping in the matrix. We are activated. So the throat, the third eye, you're going to go up to your crown. I want you to activate the 7th, activate the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, the 11th, the 12th, the 13th, and above you is a powerful white light of source. I want you to connect up into that white light. And you're going to anchor that white light down into your body, into the center of the earth, through the perineum, letting go of any stagnation in the spinal cord, in the perineum, through the sexual organs, flush out anything in the body that's stagnant, that doesn't allow that white source to move through you. If you feel like it's difficult to imagine moving white source light through your body, you have blockages. So you're just going to release them. You are going to just release them. The mind is very powerful. And, our intention actually is more powerful. The mind just carries out the signals of what to do, right? So in your body, you are source. We have blockages because we forget that we're source. We don't believe that we're source. So we're going to believe right now that we're source. We're going to allow that white light to anchor down to the center of the earth. Okay? So now that you're here, go ahead and open your eyes. And with your eyes open, you see your grounding cord, your field, your source through your body connecting up to source. Welcome back. You guys did amazing. So I'm going to go into the chat to answer some questions here. Kevin says we have to learn about all lives. No? Yes, we have to learn about our past lives. So what you'll discover is that after you have reprogrammed and understood the patterns in your lifetime and reintegrated your fragments, it's not enough to just see them and know that they're there. You need to reintegrate what we did today. Today, we reintegrated fragments of yourself that believed in this control. Okay, we reintegrated that. So that's a pretty deep healing. And so now that you've done that, you're going to find what else you need to integrate from. Basically, to be fully integrated, you're going to reintegrate from the entire spectrum of emotions, okay? The entire rainbow. You have to get to know the whole rainbow. All frequencies, from your darkest shadow, you have to see it, from your lightest, brightest aspect of yourself. So once you do that, you're going to open up the Akash. You're going to open up your DNA to your past lives. And you're going to do the same thing. And what you're going to notice is another layer of information. These layers of information are scars on the body, things that you don't understand about yourself, parts of you that have come in as twins, part of you that has come into adopted families. You're having really heavy ET contact, you're having really strong interdimensions, you have some kind of an illness that is strange or rare. And most of the roots of that illness are in this lifetime. There's no such thing as the roots not being in this lifetime. They're here. So once you identify them there, you're going to identify them in your past lives because these are repetitive patterns. So once you're done with that, you're going to go visit your past lives and you're going to do the exact same thing. It's very simple. And you don't need to look at the entire life. You're just going to probably have one or two memories from each life, maybe just one, maybe even pictures. At one point, it went so fast for me that I just went through all of my lives, through the history of the Akashic record of the planet Earth. And remember that we have lives on many, many planets. What we know as planets are dimensional layers of our existence. Okay, so yes, this work is never ending. Yeah, that's what it is. We are infinite. So the human mind thinks about that and they're like, oh my God, that's too much. No, you don't know what you are. You are infinite. You are massive. There is no way that the human can understand how expansive you are. Okay, so we need to start getting comfortable with the idea that we are infinite and that we can't conceptualize what that looks like. Okay, so the only thing we need to worry about that, there's no sense in worrying about that, is taking a look at the fragments that you need to clean up from past lives. Okay, so after you reintegrate the ones that you need to access, you're going to start seeing even deeper, another layer of shift in your current lifetime. And it's a deeper healing, it's a wider awakening. You will unlock another layer of intuitive abilities within you because you're activating your DNA. The fact that you're reading past lives or simultaneous lives that exist, you are activating DNA strands, okay? And again, they're not the ones that write the protein that write this body. They're the ones that begin to access your multidimensionality. So you're going to begin to access those parts of you, okay? So Yeah, so that's what you see. And again, you're going to see patterns. It's always the same. You're choosing love and fear in all these dimensional layers. That's I'm giving you the biggest cheat answer ever. And I really don't like doing that. You'll notice that I'm going to show you how to get there, but I don't want to tell you the intimacy process because you need to experience that, and don't take my word for it, because each person reaches that understanding in different ways. So you will know, you will discover that when you go into these simultaneous lifetimes, again, you're choosing between love and fear because this is the memory of the earth, three-dimensional plane, where it's to experience contrast. That's how I know for a fact that we are here to experience contrast and creation, because we are learning how we destruct, how we create. Okay, and what that means. That means many things. We learn how that functions in this lifetime and in all lifetimes that we've had. Because if we have access to those memories within this dimensional plane, even if you were an alien on a different planet, you're still learning from that evolutionary process. Why? This is also why I know that most aliens or ET aspects or interdimensional aspects of us exist within the 13 dimensional layers, and those are the ones that we're working with. Anything beyond that, it's a completely different law. You're not in the third dimension anymore. It doesn't belong to the matrix anymore. You're dealing with interdimensional existence beyond 13th, 14th, 15th, and they have a different way of existing. It's not about contrast anymore. It's about something else. These are bodies of light, and the closest to source you get, the less interference, the less it is about contrast, the more it is about union. So it's a different existence. Okay, so everything within the 13 dimensional layer is all ETs, all interdimensional aspects of yourself that you're going to be interacting with. Okay. Yeah, thank you for that question. Sioban says, speaking of looking younger, my friend told me I look 8 to 9 years younger after doing this month of meditations with you. Yes. Oh my gosh, that is so true, Sioban. I also experienced that kind of rejuvenating thing with myself. And I have a lot of friends that say you didn't change, you didn't age, you know. And this is why I know for a fact. I only speak from experience. I don't speak from things that I read or I see outside. I only know what I know for proof because I've done it in my body. And this meditation work is the key and the secret to the fountain of youth. And we know that. We can read stories of alchemy. We can read about the fountain of youth and what that meant for so many different ancient cultures in order to rejuvenate, regenerate the body. It's this. This is how we are growing the telomeres through deprogramming and through meditation. I mean, it's right here. We have a whole presentation about that the other day, so you can learn about that. And this is the application of that information. We're not just giving out information that's conceptual, we're embodying that work. And it's here within that meditation that you just did today. So thank you so much for that. That is amazing. I'm so happy to hear that. Payaroa, outdated computer programs, defrag programs, unconditional love. This is it, Earth Angel. Yeah, it's like defragging. Yes, that's a good way to put it. We are updating our software indeed. We're not even just updating, we are activating the whole software. Right now, we're only functioning with the 10% of this brain. We're not even using our full brain. You guys have seen that film Lucy, right? Where she begins to activate her whole brain and then she turns into consciousness. Hello, this is what we are, and this is what we become. You want to be the Jedi, you want to be this master co-creator. That's not just a fairy tale. We have the proof within the MK Ultra programs that utilized highly intuitive individuals to carry out things that an average human cannot. Everything from teleportation to telepathic communication to remote viewing to intuition. to using their body in ways that most people can't, to tolerating pain, to recovering and healing their bodies quickly. All of those are basic side effects of the new human, of this higher human, right? And so we know that. We know that. True Cigar, so powerful. We have it in ourselves to take our freedom back. We just need to keep dedicating ourselves to becoming our true power and tap into it. That's right. Kevin, true, we can always find our way. That's right. Future Whale, welcome. Hello all, TGI Monday. Yes, TGI Monday. Reina, say hello from Florida. I haven't been able to do this consecutively because it's been such a life review that has taken me into places I wasn't ready to go. Totally, Reina, and that is so doing the work. Thank you for doing that. That is incredible. Thank you so much for the super chat, Angie. Thank you so much, Siobhan, for the super chat. Thank you so much, Greg. Love you guys. Thank you for the support. It really means a lot to me. So let's talk about that, Reina, because, and this is a great topic that you brought up about finding places that we're not ready to go. And we kind of touched on that a little bit in today's conversation, but that's the dark night of the soul, where we access that deep shadow part of us that, even we, because we judge it, we're afraid to go there. Well, that's where your liberation lies. So if any of you feel ever fear of yourself and what you've discovered, please understand that you are at the doorway of a major expansion, another level of perception and seeing things. Okay, so that's amazing. Lee Gartman says, hi, Geraldine, amazing gifts going on, integrating quite a lot this week. That's awesome. Siobhan says, Geraldine, you mentioned something the other day about not always being in a love space when you need to get out of a bad situation. For example, wondering about discernment and standing up for oneself. I'm not sure I understand the question, Siobhan, my love. Can you please clarify that for me? Let me see. Hold on a second. Well, the way I understand your question basically is like, do you embody a state of love when you're in a bad situation? No, not always. What I mean by that is because we need to define what love is. We don't really know what love is. We think that love is a fairy tale emotion, like positiveness, happiness, joy, showing or expressing that joy. But real love, real unconditional love is actually very neutral. It's very neutral. And so this is why, you will see sometimes people that are, learning how to be in a state of unconditional love, they respect themselves and their expression and the exchange of life force. They understand the worthiness and the value of their life force. So they don't feel like they have to perform, or they don't feel like they have to look a certain way. And that is true self-love. It's actually authenticity. So the key is authenticity. So if something is occurring that is a bad situation, come into your most authentic self in that moment. That's how you will be able to understand truth. When you embody the most authentic self in a state of observation and not judgment, because you can be authentic and in that authenticity realize that you're really angry and then act on that anger because you're judging the anger as good and bad, and you're judging the activities outside of you as good and bad. So you're going to respond in a way that's encoded with the same repetitive program. That's not it. So the neutrality and the observation has to be non-judgmental. So the key is that when something is happening, whatever it is, whether it's good or whether it's bad, to come into that unconditional self-love observation state so that you can come into your most authentic, you can give yourself time to understand how you really feel, not the repetitive programs and survival mechanisms, but the true emotions in that moment. And you're going to notice that it's something completely different. And you know what? We don't have any examples of that in our society. We definitely don't have it in television shows. We definitely, in fact, most television shows are showing us the most inauthentic behaviors of humanity. in not just because they're acting, just in the dialogues that are being utilized. I mean, do you ever notice these and watch the inversion of everything that's authentic? Everyone is being sarcastic. Everyone is trying to pretend something they're not and that they don't feel. And it isn't until the end that maybe they even begin to recognize some truth. So we waste a lot of time. The thing is, come into authenticity, neutral observation, and act from there, create from that authenticity. What do you really want to happen in that moment? You will be able to access your needs through that authenticity, and then you will meet your needs. First, you're going to meet your needs. And then if you need to ask from another person to do something or communicate something to them, you will be able to do it from that place. And it's going to be a completely different conversation. So that's really what we want to do. And the discernment comes from that connection and unconditional love of the self, that you can actually tune into your true discernment, which comes from true authenticity. Okay, so that's actually what we really want to do. Heart Travel, please share your perspective about negative versus positive emotions. Is the difference to do with the lens we choose to see and experience through? Can any emotion be positive or negative? Okay, well, actually, I touched on that a little bit in this session, where we need to differentiate the difference between positive and negative and good and bad. When we talk about positive and negative in emotions, we're immediately talking about the charge that it creates in the physical body. Okay, so a negative charge in the body creates downward spiral, counter-creative co-creation, stagnation in the body, chemicals that are destructive in the body. Positive is expansive, creative, nourishing. This is positive and negative. These are the mechanics of emotions. Judgment has nothing to do with truth. Judgment is the lens that you're talking about. So when we use the lens, we are only looking through the very myopic lens of only what we know, only what we've been programmed to know. So we're only going to be able to answer if it's good and bad from that lens. And that is not seated in truth. It's seated in a truth, your truth as a result of your experiences, but that's incredibly limited. So the idea is that we want to come into a state of observer neutrality so that we can differentiate, because we're so connected to the organism, what is most constructive and what is more destructive for the body, and choose from there. That's what we're doing. There is no such thing as good and bad, because everything is cause and effect. A bad thing happened because another thing happened, probably another bad thing, and another bad thing, and another bad thing. And again, it's like, you know, I use this worst example, the abusive father to the abusive father to the abusive father to the abusive father, the abusive son to the abusive father, you know. And so we have these constant negative cycles because they're stuck from their same perspective. It isn't until one of these fathers chooses, okay, I'm going to break that cycle and I'm going to change. So it's not good and bad. We can't judge people that didn't have the tools. I mean, look at how we are just waking up and evolving, right? So we need to have compassion. And the compassion is not a false reality. You are looking at truth. The problem is people don't like truth. Truth can be very inconvenient because it's not easy to just, you know, judge someone and say you're bad. No, it's not that simple. And in our, issues with people, crime around the world, the countries that have less crime are the ones that do rehabilitation and support the criminals, because they finally got the wisdom that these people need help, right? And so we need to do that all around the world. The countries that don't do that are a business, and they're benefiting from the drug, pharmaceutical, gun, trafficking of people. They benefit from that because it's a business, and they have to keep that business going. And there's many political side effects as a result of those systems that are moving. So, criminals, they carry out the dirty work, and they also keep this financial system moving. It's not just for one country, it's for many countries interconnected. Okay, so we need to understand that. So there is no good and bad. We just need to understand what we're doing to ourselves. And that's really, again, our change isn't to affect the external, it's to change ourselves and to heal ourselves. Norma, thank you so much for that super chat. Thank you so much. Katie Tian, welcome from New Zealand. On the beach, Buzz to Catch You Live, so beautiful. Love to see a picture of that. That's amazing. Milind, welcome. Heart Traveler, thank you so much. Sweet Candy Cane, thank you for joining us. It's such a pleasure that you're here. Let me see if I'm missing any other questions. Wow, we got so many chats here. Let's see. So true. Ah, thank you. Love you guys. Hi, Pono. Hello, Geraldine. How to know if I am part of a hybridization agenda? What method could be the easiest to find out? The fact that you're human means that you're part of a hybridization program. Because we're seated on this planet, and I will talk about that in the series that I'm doing next. Our ability to remember hybridization experiences, first of all, if you don't know that you are a hybrid parent already, it's probably not time for you to know that you're a hybrid parent, number one. And number two, if you are experiencing effects in your cycle, if you're having dreams of contact, if you're having dreams of children, there's many factors. And I want to be very specific with these factors because we're not randomly saying things. You know, there's a lot of skeptical people that think about this. And because there isn't enough people talking about the details of things, it's very easily to just brush it off and say, okay, you just made that up, or you just believe that you had that experience. And the mind is powerful, and we do create everything. So that is true. We create everything, but we don't understand creation. That's the problem. What creation is manifestation. It's actually existing, just on different dimensional existences. Okay, so this is a very big question that I want to answer for you. But if you have dreams, I'm going to be very broad right now, but I will go into this topic in detail. If you have marks on your body, if you visually and consciously remember dreams that you were utilized for sexual intercourse, insemination, or extraction experiences, all of those things are little markers, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. So Gran Maestre, I'm going to answer your question in the following week. As we do, you will know the answer to that. There really is no easy way necessarily to find out, but there are some very strong markers. And one of the things that I would say is just look at your bloodline and just notice where you come from. Okay, it's not about your blood type, it's about the bloodline, because we all, have different blood types. The blood type talks about another part of us. Yeah, so I'm going to answer your question very soon, very thoroughly. Pono, meat telomeres growing. Awesome. Okay, guys. Oh, Liza says, how can I get a copy of your DNA presentation? I would love to review it. Yeah, it's posted on my channel. You guys can watch it anytime. It's available for you. It's free. Please feel free to access that anytime. Angie says, when I started my journey, I look 10 years younger. You too, Angie. Yes. Okay. Telepathy resonance in frequency. Is telepathy resonance in frequency? No. Resonance in frequency is anytime your resonance creates everything that you're experiencing. It creates the people that you're around. It creates the people you attract and the experiences you attract. Telepathy is your ability to tune in to yourself as the whole. your ability to tune in to the collective field, the communication through the morphogenetic, intuitive aspect of your holographic DNA. Okay, so two different things, but they are connected and you need one for the other. Yeah. All right, my loves. Is it fair to say that love is to be in 0 point? Yes. Yes, that's right. I will be the first to admit it. I don't know much about love. Yeah, we all don't, Greg. We are learning, and that's what we're here to learn. Loving detachment. Romantic love, is that just brain chemicals? Romantic love? No, that's another complex topic because, it can be hormones, it can be fear, it can be attachment, it can be parasites in the body. It can be a lot of things, romantic love. Okay, so this is why I strongly know for a fact that we can't really love another fully unless we love ourselves. And we probably won't even be able to recognize love until we love ourselves. And most unions are for the purpose of ascension. They're to address deeper shadows yet that we haven't addressed. Okay. And then beyond that comes into a very coherent union where you both becomes master of co-creation individually and then united. That's the ultimate, highest fragment of example of this alchemical marriage. Thank you so much, Norma. Once again, we can still have discernment without judgment. Yes, absolutely. Discernment is intuition. Again, discernment means that you're choosing what is best for your organism as well as the collective. Completely different thing than judgment. Judgment is compartmentalizing and separating things. Discernment is actually unity. It's seeing what's best for your whole organism and the collective. Okay. Awesome. All right, guys. Someday I would love to hear about what you think about RH negative. Yeah, I'll try to include that into this. When next series, when or how can we know we have integrated a fragment? When you no longer become triggered by the thing that triggered you before. Okay. So the more neutral you become, the more you're able to embody unconditional self-love, the more you'll notice that the triggers that used to trigger you no longer trigger you. Okay. All right, Monique. Thank you, Geraldine. Lady Geraldine, your talks and presentations are incredible. Thank you so much for being here. Love you. Have an incredible night. And I'll see you tomorrow for day 30. I can't believe it's already day 30. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. Melinda says, Dear Geraldine, is third eye a physical organ, and how can we heal and open our third eye, please? Okay, so the third eye is, yes, well, it's the endocrine system. Remember that every single chakra is the endocrine system. So the third eye relates to the pineal gland. Okay, this is known as the spiritual gland, the little pine cone that all these ancient cultures, including ancient Egypt to ancient Rome to the Vatican to you name it, even in India, all around the world, we have depictions of the pine cone. And that pine cone is a spiritual organ that literally activates the secretion of life force that creates interdimensional activity, availability for your body in order to navigate into dimensional planes. And it readjusts your brain waves, expanding the ability for you to access that data when you go into dream time and detach from the physical body. It creates an incredible cord for you to be able to travel interdimensionally. Okay, and to be able to connect to the collective, to read higher dimensions, including the Akashic plane and so on and so forth. So it's really awesome. Thank you so much, Siobhan and Milind. We'll talk more about that. Tech everything. Thank you so much for that super chat. Oh my gosh, that is so generous of you. Thank you very much. Would love to follow you online, but I need to sleep here in Norway. Wow, awesome. Hello to Norway. Good night, America. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Really, truly. All my love. All right. You guys, see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.